All right, good evening. This is Tuesday, 2/22/22, meeting of the Town of Berlin Planning Board. As a preliminary matter, please note this meeting is being recorded and that some of the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, that ugly band t-shirt you decided to wear tonight, or anything else you intend to or not screen share on your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured and recorded forever and ever, and may possibly wind up as a TikTok video to be shared amongst your friends and neighbors. This is Tom Sanford, Chair of the Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and people and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me prior to me calling the meeting to order. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jay Teach.
Here.
Carolyn McDonald.
Here.
Timothy Wheeler.
Here.
Thank you. With a quorum of the board present, I call this meeting to order at 7:51 p.m. Tuesday, 2/22/22. This is an open meeting of the Planning Board, which is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Specific information and the general guidelines for the remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Berlin website. The governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows and encourages us to participate remotely. For this meeting, the Planning Board has convened using the Zoom platform as posted on the agenda, which includes links for the public to join this meeting. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After their concluding remarks, I will invite each board member by name to provide any comment, questions, penetrating insights, and/or motions. Please hold all your insights until your name is called. Board members and speakers on the agenda, please remember to mute your telephone or computer when not speaking. Please speak clearly to ensure that accurate minutes are recorded. For any reason, for any response, please wait until you're yielded the floor and state your name before speaking. If a board member wishes to engage in conversation with another board member, please do so through me to avoid multiple conversations at the same time. Lastly, please note that each vote in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Thank you all for your understanding and cooperation. Thank you. So we had, it's actually not a super huge agenda, but we had some things we wanted to take care of, and we're behind the times because we were supposed to talk from 7:40 to 8 o'clock about goal setting and things that we wanted to accomplish. Actually, before we get into that, I will entertain motions to accept the minutes of the meetings from last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, nobody noticed that I had personal notes mixed in with the agenda for this week.
They were great.
Hey, the answers to the question, well, now you're not going to get them until you, about our goal setting, I put my notes in.
Oh, yes, I saw some of those goal settings. I thought you were just volunteering some information for the rest of us to consider.
Let's see.
Yeah, okay. That's
Yeah,
how I
that
took
was it.
All right, so I will ask you to vote. Jay Teach,
Aye.
Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
and Janet can't, oh, Janet's not here, so Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries unanimous. All right, so on with our first agenda item, which is the goal setting. So Jay has got some lovely items for us to ponder. Is there anybody else that would like to volunteer a action item or something we want to put on for an item to consider for a goal the upcoming year?
Well, we have to discuss my first suggestion.
Well, I was going to do that once we got a couple more, but if you want to go to your first suggestion, we can. So the first suggestion was what to do with our friends at Riverbridge, correct?
Well, every time I drive through there, And it looks pretty good until you get anywhere near the old package store and the giant empty lot full of weeds. And it's just been a really long time. And I don't see any real progress towards changing it, except the one proposal that we got last year. But I think it would be nice to have a goal of, by the end of the year, have that start to look finished and make them finish all the stuff that they haven't finished, that they aren't going to finish until they do something with that open lot.
So how much latitude do we have in compelling them to do something? I mean, we can suppose you can ask them for a plan, but as far as compelling them to do something, I don't know how can we force the hand? I don't think we
Well,
can.
what would you have them do for that last lot?
Well, I mean, if we brought them before us to explain what's going on, they're just going to say, hey, economic conditions have, precluded us from doing what you guys want. You want some retail there and
No,
you can't find anybody, blah, blah, blah.
I don't think it's economic conditions, because we've been through a whole cycle.
Mhm.
I think it's
Several,
the fact that,
actually.
Mhm.
yeah, I think that they believe they've done everything they could possibly do to try to find a restaurant that wants it.
Right.
And it's just not a site that anybody's going to want to put a restaurant on. Right.
Right.
That's
So,
what they say.
yeah, and
Well,
I
we
mean,
actually said
it's been a long
retail on
time.
that,
Yeah.
right?
What's that?
We had said retail, which would include a restaurant, but we had said retail along that parcel, correct?
I mean, the approach that I think we've taken, which makes sense for the last however many years, has been, let's make them work harder and find something, but it just hasn't yielded anything. So you have to wonder if maybe we're asking them to do the impossible, and we should give them the latitude to do something different. Anyways, I'm just suggesting that's a goal. I'm not saying that we need to
Yeah.
stop.
No.
If we said by the end of the year, we'd like to have that project finished, it's, why not? We got a whole year to work on
Finished in terms of what?
it.
A plan or?
No, have it finished as in no more vacant lots, no more cement block abandoned buildings.
In a year's time?
Things that they're holding out on doing until something happens with that lot, we would then presumably get done. There's work on the sidewalks and bridges or something or other. There's still some things they need to do, right?
Yeah.
That we're not going to do it until we get the rest of the leasing or whatever, the rest of the properties occupied.
So I think it's appropriate for us to be aware of what's going on there and chime in when we can and try to initiate some opportunities. The selectmen and a subcommittee are continuing to try to flesh out an agreement that identifies the missing pieces, in terms of how to move forward on the bridge, how to deal with the pedestrian bridge, how to deal with the $50,000, fee for not having finished the CCRC and all that sort of stuff. So those conversations, I think, will stimulate an opportunity for us to get engaged in the conversation, because I think some of that information is gradually going to become more public, especially if some of it has to be voted on at town meeting as a modification to the development agreement. So
Do you have knowledge that they're going to be coming back before us for, a modification?
I think they're dealing with this subcommittee
Right.
and trying to put all the pieces together. So I'm not part of that, we're not part of that, but
No.
I think we could ask at some point, maybe in March, just to get updated as to where that subcommittee stands and if there's anything they want us to contribute.
Right. Well, there'd be a placeholder for the warrant, right?
Yeah, so I think we'll see that the warrant closes on Monday. So, I
Right.
think we'd probably begin to see a preliminary warrant. We'd get some ideas if that's going to be part of it.
Well, I mean, I, for one, as a private citizen, not as a planning board member, I'm at my limit of my patience with what they're doing down there. Like you said, there's several cycles that they've gone through, and
Yeah.
you know, it's about time. I mean, we've looked at stuff down there for a long, long time, not getting completed, and you know, things not being
Yeah, I mean, the
promises
good-
made, not kept, and
Yeah.
you know, attempts to, you know, backdoor us with plans that really weren't appropriate and what have you. And how much more are we going to put up with?
So I think if this conversation between that subcommittee and the Sennies generates new language and new deadlines for, you know, their contribution. I mean, the main thing we want to get out of this right now is a fulfillment of their obligations, not necessarily in terms of the build out in my mind, but in terms of the infrastructure improvements they were going to make and the contributions to the town for certain types of, you know, benefits. This ambulance question still has to be, you know, resolved in some fashion. So that all those questions are key in terms of the town being made whole as part of the agreement. The fact that they don't finish the last 3 buildings on the pads that are available, I guess doesn't worry me quite as much, because I think market conditions at some point will dictate that something will happen there. And it's not as much of an issue for us as a community that those aren't there. I mean, there's some tax revenue, but you know, I don't have any trouble with that coming online later down the road. We've got the benefit of the housing, and we've resolved our housing crisis in terms of affordable units. So we don't have to be threatened by builders now that they're going to throw some project up in everybody's backyard. And the hotel tax is going to be a significantly greater amount of revenue than we'd anticipated from any of the other types of uses that were going to be there. So, I mean, that the hotel tax is going to be big. You know, it's that room tax is significant. And so those things, to me, you know, that puts us in a good position. But resolving what's going to happen with the intersection between Pleasant and South and the bridge and the pedestrian bridge and all those contributions they're supposed to make for other pieces of the pie need to be resolved. And that's my sense, is that the committee's doing that. So.
Well, I agree with most of that, but I have a different opinion about the remaining lots.
Yeah.
Because it still looks like an unfinished, you know, it looks like it went bankrupt or something halfway through the project.
Have they
Even if
taken
they-
the liquor store down yet?
No, even if they rip down the liquor store and landscape that whole stretch,
Exactly.
you know, even that will
Right.
be.
Uh,
And so maybe that needs to be something that we say to the committee
Yeah.
that's negotiating, get
Hydro
that
seed,
out of
let
there.
it be done.
Yeah.
Mow it.
Right.
Yeah, Tim, I thought you were on that committee. I didn't realize we weren't represented there.
No,
Don't you think we should be represented? I mean, it's too late now. I don't know.
it's a pretty, it was only like
A handful of people.
3
right?
people.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was maybe
Kind of our
someone from
project.
finance, one of the selectmen, and Margaret and Tom Galvin, maybe. Public safety, finance, selectmen.
Don't you
So-
think we should have a representative there?
We can check in. I can ask Chris Keefe. I think she's on it. I'll ask Chris what's going on.
I mean,
Yeah.
for me, there's an opportunity there for that other piece of the property that we share up by where the old River Run was. And,
Yeah.
you know, I
Right.
mean, if there's an opportunity for us to do something with that, like the co-housing or stuff that we talked about, maybe an opportunity to further what we want to do. You
Right.
know, I just would hate to see that opportunity lost if somebody
Right.
doesn't have, you know,
That's a
knowledge
good
of.
point. That should be, I mean, that's another goal, right? Is to take that opportunity and do something with it. Because I think, you know, waiting longer, I feel like we've had a really long period of prosperity and growth and real estate values going up and yada, 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 and low interest rates, which means we've had just the ideal environment for starting new construction projects. And it's got to come to an end sometimes. And now, there's just a lot of reasons why the time is coming soon, inflation rates going up, et cetera, et cetera. And so I don't feel like it's going to get better. I think it's going to get worse, which means, we might as
another
well
cycle before.
try to figure out how to bring to a conclusion
Right.
this year rather than wait
Right.
longer and see if somehow
Yeah.
it'll get resolved.
Yeah,
Well,
it would be interesting to see how. I can't believe that nobody wants that lot except for
More
jammed
housing.
in, or urban appropriate housing. But I think that's what maximizes the return on that lot. And that's
Maybe.
not,
I can see why a restaurant doesn't want to go there. So, and in retail, you get the same problem. You just got such low population density around it that it just may not be a retail restaurant location. It's going to work. If that's the case, we should come up with, with the Sennies, maybe figure out what else.
but it's
Done
not
with it,
that
and it-
much different than anything that would be in Northborough, or, there are restaurants around, people do open restaurants around here.
I think if you draw a circle or, a reasonable sized circle around that spot on a map, population density is really low. Northborough is a lot more dense than Berlin, right?
Sure, and it's 5 miles down the road.
1
290 is right there. Yeah, right.
One
Not
mile.
even exactly. It's 1
Yeah.
mile down the road. The New England Sports Center. That's
New England
one of
Sports
the-
Center's got 1.25 million people a year that come.
right.
Wow.
If you can't successfully market to the New England Sports Center
With a restaurant.
with a restaurant
And a hotel across the street.
and a hotel across the street,
Okay.
Boundless Adventures, that's one of the reasons they wanted to be there was because of New England Sports Center. It's why the Apex Center is there.
Yeah.
So it's not while resident, sure, we have a low population density in the town of Berlin, but the area itself, there's no real 100% legit reason that somebody wouldn't want that pad.
Huh.
We
So
don't
I
know
agree.
what kind of deal they're crafting too. They may make it so unpalatable for a restaurant to come
That-
in.
yeah,
That
That could very well be.
that they're like, forget it, we'll just find some other place else.
Right.
It's not worth it.
Yep.
So
Possible.
Right,
So, yeah,
because
I
they
agree.
might,
Riverbridge
Yeah.
has got to be a high priority on our year-long goal. We can focus in on that. And I think the other one that you talked about was this, as we work on the housing production plan and the housing portion of the master plan, dealing with this issue of, do we want to take advantage of the river run opportunity and deal with the language that we'd want to create to develop some sort of overlay that deals with, the workforce housing. I said we've signed the contract for the housing production plan. So I think Emily what's her last name? Emily from Central Mass is going to be working with us though, along with some other members of the team, but she'll spearhead the project. And I would think we'd be hearing from her in the next week or two. And they want to do some, public forums, surveys, but initially meet with us and other, the housing partnership and stuff like that. So that ends up being a big goal of the year, because the way the contract reads, the deliverables come in toward the end of this year or I guess the first part of next year. So it's a good long haul. But there's no reason. And so as part of that, we've got this creation of a housing trust, but also I think development of an overlay that helps us deal with the River Run property at the same time. So I guess those are three different types of goals. One is the plan, one is housing for River Run, and one is the creation of the trust.
So those seem like two lofty goals. Is that enough of a goal, two goals for us, or do we want to add more?
That's three.
It's a pretty full plate.
Yeah,
And if
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
accomplish them, it would be major. I mean, those are big, big, important pieces, all of them.
Yeah, the workforce housing overlay, whether it ends up being on that piece of property or something else. That is certainly one of my goals.
okay. Do we want to think about this a little bit more and then we can make it official in the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, okay, so we got three categories, or at least if you agree, I was trying to get three categories. Finish things we've already started, which is River Bridge.
yep,
Start things we've decided to do, but haven't really gotten going yet in a big way.
co-housing.
And then decide on some new things that may not even start this year. So River Run, I don't know which category that fits in. We certainly haven't already started it, so it's either B or C.
Well,
Right, I
we
think-
talked about doing it, and it dovetails with what we talked about for this workforce housing / co-housing type of opportunity. So, I mean, that could be a continuation of something that we haven't started, but have set the kernel of, you know, idea generation.
All right. Well, the Affordable Housing Trust, I'm definitely moving into section B. Start things that we've already decided, right? Because we did that.
Mhm.
And the River Run, I'm just not sure whether it's B or C.
Can
I
it
think it's probably
be,
C, because I don't think we've really, I think it's a great idea, but I don't think we haven't really prepared to kick it off, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty preliminary still.
right?
And the other thing I had on B, which is start things already decided, is this, you know, town center project, which we kind of put on the back burner until we could start having live meetings, which is coming soon.
So I met with Carrie and she's tweaking one little piece of the document. And so I would think we'd get it next week. And it's in two formats. One is the standard sort of, you know, flip the page, the type of thing you'd have as a written document. And the other is, they call a storybook. It's a very interactive document that I think for the average citizen is going to be kind of interesting, because as you scroll through the document, I mean, you've seen these things in the New York Times and other places. You scroll through and it brings up another image, and that image allows you then to click on a document that then opens and becomes informative in a particular fashion. So it might open the open space plan, or it might open complete streets, or you know, so it references those, gives a little blurb, and then takes you off in that other direction. So that we'll have next in the next 2 weeks. And I said to Carrie that now what we need to do is have boards and committees look at it, and then begin to do the public forum dialogues with the community.
This is for the master plan or for the town center plan?
this is for the Village Center study. So then we end up, because the part that we never got to was engaging the public. We talked a lot about a number of priorities and interests, and they walked and all that sort of stuff, but we never rode with it in terms of the public domain. So
Right.
I said, give us a proposal that we can look at that suggests where it goes now, what types of interaction we'd have with the public. And then, because she was talking about, you'd have sort of a website presence, and then people could go to that, look at the document, make comments, that sort of thing, and then have these public meetings. And I said, great, that's exactly what I think we're after. And so she's going to throw us a proposal, and I would think we'd get that in the next week or two as well. So we'd probably be able to deal with that sometime in March. So that's another piece of the pie that we'd be dealing with this year. So it's completion of the Center Village study. So that's another one added to this list, which again, I think is pretty nice. I mean, I'm encouraged.
Good.
All right, well, let's have that marinate until next meeting, and then we can adopt it as official or amend it as we see fit.
Yeah.
Because we need to really move on to the next part of the agenda in case somebody's waiting patiently to
Lynn is,
People.
talk to us.
Lynn and Susanna.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, does that seem fair?
Yep.
All right. So the next part of our agenda was to continue our discussions on the proposed draft warrant articles, which Mr. Wheeler was so gracious to put into writing for us
Yes.
all to peruse.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That was
They're
nice.
not sacred.
No. I understand that, but it helps quite a bit. So.
And
did
I
you-
sent them to
did you
Lynn,
have-
and she was going to send them to Susanna.
Okay, that was my next question. Did they
So,
get to? Are
Can we
they,
elevate them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
please.
Yep.
Thank you.
If it decides to actually do it. Sometimes Zoom wants you to do it 2 or 3 times.
Fickle.
It's weird. I can't open your file.
Susanna, I'm trying.
Hi, Lynn.
Let's allow her to talk, at least for the moment, and I'll work on getting her camera.
Can you hear me at least?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think I have the email.
Oh, you didn't get it from Lynn?
No, she didn't.
Oh. What's your email address, Susanna? Now that everybody in the world will know. Or I can give you mine and you can email me and then I'll email you back if you want. What's your pleasure? She's gone.
Oh, she's back.
I know. Oh, all right, there we go. We finally got her promoted to a full panelist.
She's still on mute.
Like 6 times.
There
It
we
was
go.
crazy.
Okay,
There
here
we
I
go.
am.
Susanna, here's my email address is thwheeler@indianheadfarm.com. If you want to email me, I'll send you the language that we are going to look at.
All right.
Or do you have it, Carolyn?
I do.
I mean, you can put it up too.
I can share my screen.
I don't know how to share my screen. I've never had any luck.
I just emailed you, Tim.
Okay.
Either way, Tom, what do you want to do? Do you want me
Either
to?
Yeah, you can share your screen if you don't mind.
All right, let me get it first. It's here. Okay. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right. All right. What I can't see when I'm like this is if there's anybody else in the audience raising hands or
their
anything.
hands.
So if someone else would just keep an eye out for that, that would be great. All right.
So how, Tim, how much do they deviate from what we discussed in our last meeting when we had everybody doing that marathon session?
My goal was not to have them deviate. I didn't try to create anything.
Good.
I hope.
So, so if we can run through these and review and then like pick them off, we'll vote at the end on whether we accept or, because I think we have to vote on each one of them, don't we? To accept them, to push them forward to a warrant.
Yeah, and what I did, the only thing I did was try to cluster them to make town meeting easier.
Okay,
So the first three, the Article 1 just ended up being definitions, which I thought people could probably digest all those at one time.
good.
I
Yep.
thought the floor area issue probably needed to be discussed independently. And then there were three pieces that were modifications to home-based contracting. So I grouped those into one. And then I did the noise issue. And then in the non-conforming uses and structures and all that, I did all that as one article. And I didn't see an easy way to try to explain. I thought people probably needed to see the whole text in order to vote on that one. So it's going to be cumbersome in terms of the newspaper articles and the warrant, but I think it may benefit from being all spelled out because it's not easy to understand, I don't think,
Right.
just by giving it piecemeal.
Right. So
We
let's
can
start
talk
with the
about-
low hanging fruit. Can we go up to the top to where the definitions are? So this is basically what we discussed with you, Lynn, and Susanna the last time. I know, Susanna, you haven't had the benefit of really looking at these and digesting them. Yes, Lynn?
I went out to double check. I don't have them either.
Oh, you don't? Oh, no.
Well, no wonder you didn't, I sent them to you, but what's the matter?
I just went out and did a scan on TH Wheeler on my email and I don't see it.
Susanna, I just sent them to you. Did you get them yet?
Let me look. Yes, I did. Do you want me to send it to Lynn?
Oh, please.
I feel like we're playing telephone.
Right?
Isn't it great?
Okay, forward.
Yeah, Lynn's probably got me blocked, so I can't send her anything probably.
I don't have you blocked. I have you on speed dial.
All right, Lynn, you should have that.
Okay, because I don't know about you, but I can't read these.
You can't read what's on the screen?
Yeah, it's coming up too small for me.
So if you change it to right, because gallery view, does it look like the Brady Bunch?
Great.
on your screen?
Everybody's off to the side, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I got it.
There you go.
Good.
So I think the best bet is to read through these. And then we'll take them each one, because you guys haven't had the benefit of reading them and thinking about them. So it's gonna be a little bit more difficult doing it this way, but we'll see if we can get through it. So the first one, the contractor's yard, any land or building used for the housing, storage, or repair of equipment, vehicles, machinery, new or used, supplies, materials, or components used by the owner occupant of the premises or on behalf of a contractor stored for use off-site. I think that's pretty darn close to what we had hashed out the last time.
Yeah, Tim, I think you did a good job of making sure if someone was building, it didn't matter because it's not off-site use and that sort of thing. I think you thought it through pretty well.
So does that one look like it's something that you guys can work with or be happy with?
Yeah, it's almost word for word what I sent, and you added the word housing, which we had discussed last time.
Correct. Good, okay. So next one was a sales room. And I believe that that one is is the same. A building or any part thereof in which only goods which are not readily portable are kept exposed for sale or auction by a retailer or wholesaler showroom.
Yes, that is the same.
Yep, okay. And then service establishments is any establishment whose primary use is the provision of assistance as opposed to products to individuals, business, industry, government, and other enterprises.
Now, we had talked about putting in some examples, and I didn't do that, but you know, we can talk about that a little bit.
Do you feel that that is something that you desperately need, or is it something that is a luxury of, or?
Personally, I think the lack of definitions
Mhm.
causes a great deal of problems for us. I don't know how you feel, but under service establishment, do you consider our real estate broker's office a insurance agency, a service establishment?
By this definition, I think that it is.
Yeah,
Is that
I
the way you
agree.
want it to be based on the bylaw?
So do you want us to add such as,
No, I think it's fine as long as you meant to include those types of things. What does the chart of uses, does it differentiate between a service establishment and an office, let's say?
a service establishment isn't allowed in the limited business zone, and business or professional offices are?
Is that a conflict?
Could be.
I don't know where it went. Oh, I got it.
In the limited business zone, uses are allowed.
Yeah.
Businesses or professional offices are allowed by right in the commercial village, the commercial and the limited business zone. Service establishments have to go through and get a special permit.
But they are allowed.
They're allowed if they get a special permit. I
I'm
guess,
just looking for conflict. I mean, if you you wanted to include, I'm thinking of a service establishment more in terms of a repair type place.
No, by definition, service establishment is for an on-site service which involves personal contact. I read the whole thing, which involve personal contact with people who do not work in the office. So it's definitely geared towards office and not towards repair.
so that's part of a definition we haven't included. Do we need to add that language?
It probably wouldn't be bad if we're already having a discussion of what does this actually mean?
Right.
It sounds to me that I didn't include enough when in the definition when I first wrote it.
So the terms you just used were what? Personal contact. Where did that fit in?
What I'm looking at is a law definition. So it's not, rather than a planning definition, it's a legal definition.
Right.
Which is, and I will send it to you. Any business, professional, or government office providing a substantial function of the business as an on-site service, which involves personal contact with people who do not work in the office. Examples would include, but not be limited to, residential real estate sales, banks and loan offices, medical offices, and employment agencies. Also included are personal service shops, which administer personal services, including beauty and barber shops, nail salons, tanning salons, day spas, pet grooming, tailoring, shoe repair, and other similar uses. And I think we talked about, a hair salon last time also, and whether that would be part of it.
Well, why don't you send us that information? Why
Doing
don't
that
we,
now.
why don't we add it to this definition that we've got? Submit that as our warrant article, and then if we decide to, after we look at it a little more closely at our next meeting, perhaps, we could say to the selectmen, let's modify it before you go to the public with the printed copy of this,
Okay.
Because I think
that.
what your comments, your comments and Lynn's comments suggest that it would help you guys if we structure this a little more definitively than just this simple 2 lines.
But one of the other things you're gonna need to look at is under commercial uses in the use regulation chart, the table of principal use regulations. Under commercial uses, it lists service establishments. It does not allow it in residential, agricultural, or obviously multi-dwelling. Commercial village, it has an SR, so it has to have a site plan and
Special permit.
Special permit, yeah.
right. And it's that, it does not allow them in limited business.
Correct.
So you need to take a look at that chart. For example, we have someone right now in the limited business that wants to do what would probably fall under this service type establishment. And they're just coming in for site plan. So just take a look at that if you would, please.
So
Right.
do you want us to get rid of the requirement for a special permit, or do you want us to add
I want you
special
to do
permit?
what you want to do. I just want you to realize you're affecting what's in the
No,
chart.
no.
Right.
Well,
Right.
if you list, for example, if you list hairdressing, how does that affect home occupation?
Or tailoring. I mean, that's also something else that somebody often will do out of their home.
Well, right
Right.
now, it's not allowed.
Well, that's it. And to use Lynn's words, is that what we want?
Well, right now, only things that service establishments are where they're only allowed is in the commercial village and commercial.
Well,
You-
you can
you
do a
can be
home
a
occupation in your
hairdresser.
home, and a
Right.
home occupation can include tailoring, right?
And real estate broker and a host of others.
Yeah,
But that would be limited to approval by the ZBA as a home occupation.
All I'm saying is there is a conflict.
I guess I don't see how we got a conflict.
Well,
Maybe I'm missing something,
Under residential agricultural
right?
or service establishments, it's not allowed.
Correct.
So if I want to come in and have a home occupation as a hairdresser,
Yeah.
which I can do now,
Right.
does that mean I can't do it in the future?
No, you still be able to do it, but it would be under a special permit through the ZBA as a home-based occupation.
But it says in the chart of uses,
Yeah,
there are service establishments in which you will define the likes of a hairdresser is not allowed in a residential agricultural district.
by adding those definitions, I get it. I get what you're saying. Yep.
So just take a look at that. I mean, we could dwell
Okay.
on it for hours, but
Right.
Lynn, if I want a home occupation and it's in my residence, right?
right.
It's a home occupation. It's not a service establishment.
Hmm. But is it? Like,
Well,
can it be, I think we need to
Well, if you-
qualify that.
I can have a home occupation in a residential agricultural zone simply by meeting those 9 requirements. I don't need to go to the ZBA, do I?
Yes, you do for a home occupation.
Where does it say that?
Hold on.
I would think we'd have to, but where is that? A home occupation is defined in Article 14, may be established in an agricultural residential district. Clearly incidental, not more than one person other than the residents shall be engaged in the conduct of the home occupation, no offensive noise, there shall be no public display of goods, no signs, except as permitted in Article 9, no exterior storage, adequate off-street parking, not require parking of more than 3 vehicles used by clients, customers, or visitors, and traffic generated by such use is not inconsistent with traffic usually associated with a single-family residence. Period. Huh. Interesting, huh? And home occupation is the use of a portion or of an owner-occupied dwelling or a building accessory thereto as a place for incidental work and storage in connection with an off-premises trade by a resident. Oh, no, I'm a group, where am I? Home occupation, an activity conducted by a permanent resident of a dwelling unit and inside the dwelling unit in an accessory structure, including the following: customary home occupation, suggest making, and it doesn't say anything anywhere about needing to go to anybody about permission.
You're right. But
So,
if you want to prevent a conflict, all I'm saying is maybe the verbiage in your statement about the service establishment should say something like other than a home occupation.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that way, the service establishment can be a standalone, but you've got to go through the permit process. But it doesn't have to be associated with a residence.
Right. But the home, if you exclude a home occupation without even saying what it is, then they can go to the home occupation, and there are limits. In other words, there can only be one
Right.
employee and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay, I think we solved that.
I think more than, I bet more than half the working people in town are currently have a home occupation, and it's not covered. It's not dressmaking, preserving, home cooking, etc. Working
Well,
from
it
home.
refers to being like, okay?
It's what's that?
In here it says it's like at some places, I remember. Let me see if I can find it.
Why don't we, if we're going to modify this definition, why don't we modernize it by 20 or 30 years here?
Easy.
Oh,
Nowhere in
goodness.
there does it say remote work from an office. I mean, it
Let's not
says
get carried
any
away.
kind of
Right,
appliance, which I think
but
applies to-
remote work from an office is none of our business. We're
Right.
really just we care about if there's going to be people coming and going, if the neighbors might get disturbed, if there's traffic, if there's stuff in the yard. If, you're working for Fidelity out of your spare bedroom, I don't care.
So
think
the
we wanna
question is,
say
do
that.
you care if I run a tailoring operation out of my home and I comply with those 9 criteria? Do you want me to have to go to anybody and ask if I'm allowed to do that?
I think as long as you comply with the criteria that we've already set up.
I mean, should we include home occupation as allowed by right, but needing site plan approval? So at least the ZBA acknowledges the fact they're there and just reminds everybody about what the 9 standards are.
I think we should give a voice to the neighbors, and that would be a vehicle that would do that. Because if you could do something by right, you don't have to go before anybody, and you think it's okay, but your neighbors certainly don't, then how do you resolve that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So are you looking for a special permit or are you just looking
I
for?
think it should have a special permit.
See, that's one of the things with our, even the current petition we have in front of us. This individual at 275 Central Street claims he will never have more than 3 employees, and there will be no access to the public. The public will not be coming in and out.
Mhm.
Well, that's great, but we're authorizing office space, so therefore we have to take into consideration any lawful office use. And there is no way to limit, as you can with a special permit, to a specific number of employees and so forth and so on. So yeah, site plan is great, but more than site plan would be a special permit if you want to control home occupation.
Well, Lynn, we're talking about a service establishment, correct? For
Yeah.
275?
Yeah,
Isn't that, and isn't it already listed as needing a special permit? We're not,
Well, if it's a service establishment, it's not allowed in the limited business zone.
Right.
If it's
But
a
it's-
business or professional office, it is.
yeah. So is the petitioner defining it as a real estate office or a professional office?
he's using the word office. So I think, yeah, if you do your definition, which sounded great, and I think the additions that Susanna had were great. But if you say excluding home occupations, okay?
Right.
And then you might want to consider requiring a special permit for home occupations. But that's yet another thing. There is a definition for home occupation in the definitions. And it's
And
any
Jay's gonna rewrite that, so it has up-to-date occupations considered appropriate for the home, right, Jay?
Well, I don't know. How many people do we have doing dressmaking and preserving in town now?
Didn't we all
Um,
take it up during the pandemic?
Right?
Licensed home kitchen, yep.
Right. Well, I mean, preserving, sure, but tailoring that, even though we don't currently have someone, that's certainly something that is foreseeable.
Yeah.
That someone might want to do.
There's no harm in leaving them all in here because any of them that are here could be considered a home occupation, especially where the home occupation in another section is defined as having no more than one, it has to be owner or resident run and only one more employee and that sort of thing.
Right.
So it does also include physician, dentist, attorney, architect, engineer, accountant, or member of a similar profession.
I was in somebody's basement and the grandfather had a radio repair shop for all the police and fire departments around the area for years.
Yes, Dick did.
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
Pre-existing non-conforming or something, right?
And it's underground. That must give it an exception, don't you think?
Well, the assessors don't consider that part of the house, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I think you've beaten this one to death, and I think, you've got a reasonable definition with the additions that Susanna had. It is so long as you exclude home occupation.
Yep.
And then if in addition to that, you want to take on requiring a special permit for home occupation, great. But I think that service will help us. At least it defines what it is.
So by adding the special permit for the home-based contracting business, that seems like it would also have an unintended consequence, for better or for worse, that the assessors would now have a list of home occupations in which they can go for property tax, excise tax. Which the only way they get it now is if they just become aware of it through getting a business certificate from the town clerk.
I would say if you're doing hairdressing, you best have a license and you best have a DBA through the town.
Right.
Hmm.
And if you're cooking or making preserves, you had best have something from the Board of Health.
Yeah, you actually, unless you're doing jam, you need a commercial kitchen to do preserves. So and you're not going to get one from Neshoba.
Right.
So.
We tend to make your meetings long and it makes me nervous because you may not want us around. So how about if we leave this in your capable hands to fester over the next period of time before your next meeting?
Well, we'll draft something, submit it to the selectmen on Monday
Right.
and revisit it after we've saved the space.
Yeah. So if
And-
you want to put something in there about home-based occupation, just as like a filler, or you can skip over it or whatever you do.
So the service establishment thing, I think we can figure that out. If we want to have an article that deals with requiring special permit for a home occupation, should that be an independent article so it doesn't interfere with
Yes.
the rest of the text here that we're changing?
Yes,
Okay.
I think.
It might be
But again-
controversial enough, so we don't want to encumber these others necessarily, huh?
Well, you have to take a look at how many you're gonna have too.
Yeah.
But as long as you say excluding home occupations in your definition, then it won't shut a bunch of people down.
Yep.
Right. Which would certainly be an unintended consequence.
Right.
Good.
Want to move on to Article 2?
Sure.
That was the definition floor area. So see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws, Article 14, definitions, floor area by removing the existing definition and replacing it with the following definition. Floor area, the sum of the horizontal areas of each floor of a building measured from the interior faces of the exterior walls or from the center line of any common walls separating two buildings. The floor area measurement is exclusive of any areas of basements, unfinished attics, attached garages, or spaces used for off-street parking or loading, breezeways, enclosed and unenclosed porches, elevator or stair bulkheads, and accessory structures. So that was
So,
pretty close to what we had talked about with a couple of additions like unfinished on the front of basement.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Right, so we want to add unfinished basement. And what about, a lot of attached garages have a bonus room over them? Do we want to include that in any way?
I believe that gets included anyways, because it doesn't fall into anything that is excluded.
Sure, exclusive of attached garages.
right.
So,
It should be unfinished space in attached garages.
right,
Oh, I
In the
see what you're
building
saying.
code, in the building code, it's not called unfinished, it's called unconditioned space,
ooh,
i.e. not heated or cooled.
Mhm.
so as long as you put a carpet in there, but no heat or air conditioning, you kids can have a free bonus room, free playroom.
Correct.
Okay,
That's how they treat it.
So you don't have to add anything above the garage because it's excluded anyways?
well,
My other- Go ahead.
so I'm just asking, do we want finished space over the garage to be included in square footage? In floor area, yes, but unfinished space over the garage does not need to be.
And garage by definition, well, unless we need a definition for it, is just the area where the car goes. I know a lot of people think of a garage as the whole building, but really it's the car area.
Hmm,
Is everybody thinking about that, or did I?
No, I mean, right now, whether you have a bonus room above the garage finished or unfinished, the way the language is written, it would be excluded.
Well,
Right,
no, that's what I'm saying. A garage is a space where you park your car. It's not a two-story space because you can't. Should I write a definition for garage?
no, if you just say attached garages, exclusive of any living space.
So let's back
attached
up.
garage area?
Let's back up. Do we want to include the finished space in your floor area ratio or not?
I
The
think
f-
you do, but it's getting it in there. So you
Yeah.
say,
So if we didn't want it, then that would answer one question and would help us, write how we wanted to define it. If we do want to include it, then it takes us in a separate direction. That's all I want to do, is whether it was in or out as the first question. And now if we want it in, now we have to write it in a certain way that we get to include it.
right, if it's living space, right?
Correct.
In other words, if there's living space over the garage.
Or you could say conditioned space, like Jay was advocating that the building department looks at.
Right, although there are people who do heat and air condition their garage.
I don't
We have a
think that
definition
is the
for
definition in the building
private
code.
garage, which is covered space for the housing of motor vehicles, but not for rental or more than 2 stalls, nor for commercial repair or commercial storage, but not for rental of more than 2 stalls. So you can
So
have,
you can rent your garage.
yeah,
Funny the things you find when you have to read them, huh?
covered space for the housing of motor vehicles. So why isn't any portion of a structure that's attached to my residence, whether it's a garage or anything else, if it's got a living space, that isn't one of these excluded items, And a garage is defined as a space
I think the
for
point
housing
that's,
motor vehicles. So
the
if I
point that's
finish off the
being,
upstairs, it's not for storage of motor vehicles. It counts as part of the floor area.
Right, which is what Sue is saying.
Yeah, I think we're all set.
okay,
Okay,
But we
right, so,
need
but,
to, but you want unfinished before basements.
yes,
Okay.
I think Rich will love you for this. He and his calculator go nuts when he's trying to figure out what 35% is
Yeah.
for an apartment.
Good.
Okay, moving on. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, section 540, home-based contracting business, and section 540.5 by adding the word incidental before the word materials in the first sentence. So the sentence now will read, machinery and incidental materials used in the conduct of the business, if stored outside, shall be completely screened from public view. And by adding the following new sentence at the end of 540.6, any vehicle displaying the name of or any advertising for the home-based contracting business shall not be considered a private use vehicle. And by adding the following sentence at the end of 540.1, the business must be owned and operated by a resident and owner of the dwelling.
We love you.
Get in line.
Oh, dear, dear.
so, Lynn, do you know if there's a registered home-based business on Marlborough Road?
Not that I'm aware of.
So when there's 4 trucks that are all painted, I don't even know what the heck the business is, that are there every single day.
Well, Montero Electric is there, isn't it?
No, it's across the street,
Across the street.
down a house and across the street. Reasonably new, 3 years maybe.
Oh, yeah. I remember where they put that. Yep.
Yeah. I have often wondered what.
Well, just me, but my suggestion would be to take the name and phone number down and then find out if where that business is located on their website or how they're listed for an address in the yellow pages.
Right.
And I'd find out from Ellie if they have a DBA. So that if they're filed for a DBA in Berlin, I would say they're conducting a business out of their house.
Right.
Otherwise, they're going to tell you, we just bring the trucks home at night.
Hmm.
Yep.
If they do in fact have another location as a business.
Right.
Montero is a good example because they do have a business location in a commercial area in Hudson.
Yep. Yeah, and the garage where they store the vehicle, any vehicles that are stored there is way up and back. You can't even, unless you know the building's there, you can hardly even see it from the street.
And they only drive the vehicles in the dark.
So are we pretty happy with Article 3, or do we want to make tweaks to it?
I told you we loved you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it looks good.
Still taking my victory lap.
All right.
All right, moving on. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, section 1020 noise by deleting the section 1021 general requirements and replacing it with the following. 1021 general requirements, 1021.1 noise as measured at any property line of the lot shall not exceed the following intensities. 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 60 decibels. 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., 50 decibels. 1021.2, the above limitation shall not apply to A, temporary construction activities that take place between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. B, snow removal operations. C, parking lot vacuuming, sweeping operations or trash removal operations that take place between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Noise-making devices which are maintained and utilized exclusively to serve as warning devices. Use of power tools and equipment such as lawnmowers, snow blowers, chainsaws, tractors, and similar equipment for the maintenance of property. Shall not apply to sounds emitted during and associated with parades, public gatherings, sporting events for which permits have been issued, providing that said parades, public gatherings, or sporting events in one city or town do not cause noise in another city or town.
So my question to you is, how would you feel about vacuuming, sweeping operations at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning?
Allowed, according to this.
Yes, is that your intention?
Well, that was what it was in before, right? We didn't preclude it before.
All right, and temporary construction also could be on a Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it greatly simplifies that and it makes it apply to everybody. I just want to know if you've talked to the selectmen about the issuance of permits.
No, not yet. We were going to leave that to you guys.
Oh, you'll be sorely
Right.
disappointed.
But it doesn't say that a permit has to be issued
No,
for said
right.
events. It just says if that event is permitted, it is
Right.
excluded.
Right.
And so if it's not permitted, it is not excluded.
Oh, that's ingenious, Timothy.
He's good, isn't he?
He is very good.
So here's some comments I've received. A question as to whether there should be a time limit on the use of power tools and equipment such as lawnmowers, snow blowers, so that people don't operate them during the sleeping hours.
In the dark.
Well, but if it's a snowstorm and you have to get up and go to work the next morning, can you snow blow your driveway at 9 o'clock at night?
Well, so maybe we should, because we have snow removal operations are allowed anytime up above, maybe we should take snow blowers out of that.
Hmm.
Probably a good
that's-
idea. Yep.
So that's easy enough. So the question is, is it appropriate to think that you ought not to be mowing your lawn at 6 in the morning, you know? Or is that going too far? Anyway, that was one question that I got. Another one was, well, the comment was, we allow lawn maintenance equipment that runs at 90 to 110 decibels without blinking an eye, but don't allow live music without a permit. So then the question was, consider an exemption for live music under 75 decibels at the property line for a duration under 3 hours. And so the thought was that give 19 Carter an opportunity to operate without a license.
Do you need
Or
to?
anybody else. But you know, there's, in that instance, doesn't say what 3 hours. So you're again up in a problem area in terms of when
Well,
you allow it.
3 hours as long as it ends by 10.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, do we
really understand how loud these decibels are at a lot line?
Well, that's exactly what I was just looking up, because I was looking up, I was looking up decibel meters. So apparently you can now download an app onto your phone that will measure decibels. So
How much is the app?
they're probably free. And I said you can buy decibel meter at Home Depot for like $50. So they're not hard to get, nor are they outrageously expensive.
So we'll put one in every cruiser.
There you go. Just download the app. Even if you have to pay for the app, it's probably only $5.
But I'm thinking of it in terms of how loud is 60 decibels?
Right. So 60 decibels,
is are talking to each other,
3.5 feet away from each other.
right?
Right. Normal conversation between two people sitting at a distance of about 1 meter, 3.25 feet. It is the average sound level of a restaurant or office is 60 decibels. 75 decibels is a vacuum cleaner.
I'm just wondering, you know, if 60 decibels is reasonable, and given that it's conversation within 3 feet, normal conversation, not necessarily as loud as I am, that would make me a little bit nervous. But I don't know what the right number is.
Well, oddly enough, this 60 number is what a lot of towns use, or they say, you know, X number of decibels above ambient, which is just the background noise that you get when nothing extraordinary happened. And then they allow sometimes, you know, 5 to 10 decibels above that, which isn't very loud. That's the surprising thing about it.
I think it's a great improvement. And I think it's something that would pass at town meeting if they have the opportunity to read the existing bylaw. So I think I'd leave it alone for now. And if you have to come back and make some modifications as to the decibel level or something, or if the police come to you on their knees saying we don't want any more calls, then I'd fly with it.
I do have one concern about the word tractors, because farm equipment for farm use is excluded, but I wouldn't want someone to see the word tractor here and all of a sudden think that included farm equipment. So
Could
is
we
there
say-
any?
You want to say lawn tractors?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Right. So we're going to take out snow blowers
Yep.
and add the word lawn.
Or if you want to be, because some people have larger lawn tractors, if you want to say non-agricultural tractors.
You're talking about use, so you want it to be a tractor that's not used for agricultural purposes.
Correct.
So,
Be-
right, so someone rents a Bobcat for the weekend and to spread gravel on their driveway.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, I guess technically a lot of that would be temporary construction.
True. There are several people in town that own Bobcats.
Yep.
Tom Sanford has them in his backyard.
They're not, you can't ride on them too well.
So,
You can try once.
one attacking Carolyn's head a minute ago.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, I just didn't, I don't want to blur the line between an agricultural exclusion and this one. Although they're both excluded, I don't want to cause any confusion.
Yep, no, good.
Oh my goodness, moving on.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah,
Uh,
Oh, he saved the
Uh,
best to last.
yeah.
Uh,
But this whole thing is the last one, so. All right.
Article 5, to see if the town will vote to amend Article 11, non-conforming uses and structures by deleting the current language and replacing it with the following. Article 11, non-conforming uses and structures. 11:10, applicability. The zoning bylaw shall not apply to structures or uses lawfully in existence or lawfully begun, or to a building or special permit issued before the first publication of notice of the public hearing required by general law, chapter 40A, subsection 6, at which this zoning bylaw or any relevant part thereof was adopted. Such prior lawfully existing non-conforming uses and structures may continue, provided that no modification of the use or structure is accomplished unless authorized hereunder. 11:20, non-conforming uses in a non-residential agricultural zones. The Board of Appeals may grant a special permit to change a non-conforming use in accordance with this section only if it determines that such a change or extension shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood. The following types of changes to the non-conforming use may be considered by the Board of Appeals. A, change or substantial extension of the use. B, change from one non-conforming use to another, a less detrimental non-conforming use. 11:25, non-conforming uses in the residential agricultural zone. A non-conforming use in the residential agricultural zone may not be reconstructed, extended, altered, or changed. 11:30, non-conforming structures in the residential agricultural zones. The Board of Appeals may grant a special permit to reconstruct, extend, alter, or change a non-conforming structure in accordance with this section only if it determines that such a reconstruction, extension, alteration, or exchange shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structures to the neighborhood. The following types of changes to the non-conforming structures may be considered by the Board of Appeals. A, reconstruction, extension of a structural change to the existing structure. B, alteration to the existing structure to provide for a substantially different purpose or for the same purpose in a substantially different manner or to substantially greater extent. C, reconstruction after catastrophe, providing that the owner shall apply for a building permit and start operations for reconstruction on said premises within 12 months after such catastrophe, and provide that the buildings as reconstructed shall only be as great in volume or area as to the original non-conforming structure. 1140, non-conforming single and two-family residential structures. 1141, allowed changes. Non-conforming single and two-family residential structures may be reconstructed, deleted, extended,
No,
delete, extended, or altered. Okay. Reconstructed or structurally changed upon the determination of the zoning enforcement officer that such purposed reconstruction or changes does not increase the non-conforming nature of said structure and the issuance of a building permit where applicable. 1142, changes requiring a special permit. In the event that the zoning enforcement officer determines that the non-conforming nature of such structure would be increased by the proposed reconstruction, extent, alteration, or change, the Board of Appeals may, by special permit, allow such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change where it determines that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. 1150, abandonment or non-use. A non-conforming use or structure which has been abandoned or not used for a period of 2 years shall lose its protected status and be subject to all the provisions of the zoning bylaw. 1160, revision to the nonconformity. A nonconforming use shall, if changed to a conforming use, revert back to a nonconforming use. Is that right?
the first word is no.
Yeah.
No
I'm sorry.
non-conforming.
That
Yep.
makes more sense. All right. I'm sorry. No non-conforming use shall, if changed to a conforming use, revert back to a non-conforming use. Okay.
Could you just scroll back up a bit? I was looking at a little
Sure.
more. Okay, 1125. It says a non-conforming use in the residential agricultural zone may not be reconstructed, extended, what is
Altered or changed.
Alter to change, yeah.
okay. I don't think you quite mean that. If there's a fire and a house burns down and it's non-conforming, can they rebuild it?
I thought of that. Isn't that covered down here?
Yeah, with
Yes.
a permit,
Right. Because
For
my neighbor's
catastrophe.
house that burned, I almost guarantee that's a non-conforming lot. So I had that in mind as I read this.
Yeah, but 1125 is for the non-conforming use, not the non-conforming structure.
Correct.
So Lynn, are you asking if they
Oh,
lose
good,
their house
good
in a
catch.
fire?
Good catch, Susanna, yeah. Non-conforming use in the residential agricultural zone may not be.
But, well, this is a good question, though. If, say you do lose your house in a fire and you have a non-conforming use, you will not be able to continue your non-conforming use after that.
So give me an example.
Right. What would a non-conforming use be?
I don't know.
Let's say you have a business in a residential agricultural zone
Right,
and
Okay.
the building burns down.
right.
you
You
can
can
keep,
rebuild the building
okay,
because it's under the
Right.
catastrophe. As long as you do it within 12 months,
or get an extension, yeah.
or get an extension, yep.
Okay, so that works.
But you can build back the structure, but are you allowed to go back to using it in the non-conforming use?
You're using it as a house in a residential agricultural.
It
No,
hasn't,
that,
the use hasn't been abandoned unless they haven't used it for 2 years.
Correct.
So the use would still be valid for 2 years from the date of the fire or whenever they stop using it.
Correct.
And they have a year plus 6 months if they want an extension to rebuild it.
Correct.
So how is 1120 and 1125 different then?
one's non-residential agricultural zone and one is residential agricultural.
Oh, yeah. It's getting late.
Yep, no, because I did that also.
So just go back to that 11, whatever it was before, about the one liner there in red.
Oh, right.
Okay. So non-conforming uses in a residential, so this is uses. A non-conforming use in the residential agricultural zone may not be reconstructed, extended, altered, or changed.
Okay, so what do we have right now that's a non-conforming use in a residential agricultural zone? Is it just on Linden Street where all the heavy equipment is stored? I know that's grandfathered.
Isn't the junkyard also
Okay.
I
So,
guess
on Coburn?
yeah, all right, let's use that one. That's a good one. So, because that building is not a house, is it?
they
It's
live
only-
there.
Oh, okay, so, but so they're allowed to build it back under 11, what is that, 1140?
What this does is prevent us, because the underlying district is residential agricultural. If they stop using it as a scrapyard or reprocessing or junkyard or whatever you want to call it, and they decided they wanted to make it a car dealership, they couldn't,
Correct.
because
Correct.
we can't change their use
Correct.
in a residential agricultural district.
Right, but it says reconstructed, so say it
That-
did burn down.
That is what I was going to bring up, because it does say reconstructed. I think some of those words could be taken out of there. A non-conforming use in a residential agricultural zone may not be extended or changed.
You don't want to keep altered in there?
Well, maybe you do, but I'm just reconstructed. You wouldn't reconstruct a use.
I see what you're saying.
I think that's where my confusion came in when it said like reconstructed.
Yep, I like that change.
Mhm.
Right.
Mm.
Extended, altered, or changed, period.
Mhm. So just,
So I was just gonna say, so the parts that concern the residential agricultural zone is 1125 and
1140.
then 1140, which is 1141 and 1142,
Right.
and that's it. Everything else is,
1150 is abandonment of any of it.
right. And then the reversion to non-conformity is any of it.
I don't know that it's perfect, guys, but I'll tell you, it's a big improvement.
Mhm.
Because I do think if you're in a residential agricultural zone, that the intent is not to have you as a business. So if you give up what your current use is, you lose it. But like you mentioned before, Tim, I'm even thinking of Village Farm or whatever. That's in a business zone, right?
Yeah, commercial
Like a
village, so
village.
it wouldn't be applied here.
And it's a non-conforming structure,
Right,
but they would be able to change the use.
yep,
And I think that's what you, in other words, it's a commercial. You don't want them to have to tear the building down or something.
right,
Right.
And I think you accomplished that.
yep.
Nice.
When you take a second look at 1125, just see if you think you really need the words extended, altered. I mean, I think change to another use is probably sufficient, but
Well, so the scrapyard can't get any bigger.
the
Yeah, if you just,
scrapyard can't get any bigger.
but if
Right.
you just have changed,
Extended would cover that.
yeah,
Oh, I see. Even when they, well, when they went and put everything indoors, they altered it, right? So they wouldn't be able to do that.
So if we took out altered and just left extended or changed, you can't make it larger than what it currently is.
well,
Yeah.
how is altered different from changed?
Well, altered would be, like Lynn said, if you brought that non-conforming use indoors, you're altering the use of it, bringing it inside. So that if you left altered in there, that wouldn't be allowed. You wouldn't be able to do that. Whereas somebody would argue, hey, that's better than what now it's inside. I don't have to look at it. In my neighborhood, it's better.
You know, when they built that at Thompson's there, they built they came before us and they built a building, and the whole idea was that the noisy stuff would be inside the building
Right.
and would have less effect on the neighbors. So, we let them do it.
So you're saying changed is more change of use rather than change?
This is about use, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay, so they can alter the use, meaning they change how it happens, but change of use is to go to a different use entirely.
Well, what I'm
Correct.
arguing is we leave altered or changed in there. Just take out reconstructed. So it'd be extended, altered, or changed.
Mhm.
Right, but I think what Lynn's saying is maybe altered,
Is a good thing.
So
Okay,
it-
so if
that
we took out
sometimes being-
extended or changed,
right?
Because it's
No.
not real, that's not really the use. That's the structure. So then that non-conforming use would come down on, that piece of it would come down under structures.
yeah,
Sure,
1125 is just
actually,
the
that's
use.
true. Right, but by leaving altered, that means you can't be a scrapyard and a car dealership.
Well, it means you can alter it by putting up a building in which you can do your noisy stuff.
But is
Yeah,
that
I'm not
changing the
sure-
use?
I'm
Or is
not
that
sure
changing the structure?
reconstructed- Yeah, I'm not sure reconstructed, extended, or altered may be altered only because that would have to do with the use. But really what you say, what that whole thing is about is you can't change the use,
Correct.
okay? That's the only thing that sentence is meant to portray.
Correct.
Yeah, I think I just have an issue with the word reconstructed. I'm okay with the other three staying there.
It's up to you guys. It's such an improvement and it'll be such a big help. We appreciate it.
So we'll take out reconstructed and leave the rest.
Sounds good.
So I have a quick related question. If something is movable, that is non-conforming, for example, the movable speed bumps, they're grandfathered now. If you take them up for the winter for plowing, if you put them down in different locations, is it still grandfathered? Is that an alteration? How does that, or do they have to put them down in the exact same place every time in order to stay grandfathered?
What is
Mm.
this, Susanna?
The speed bumps over on Brigham Road,
Yeah,
you can take them up, and I think what they wanted to do is take them up for the winter so that they could plow, if I understood that correctly. And that they could do that without losing their grandfathering. Because,
I don't think they're non-conforming.
well, they're grandfathered, not
They're
non-conforming.
pre-existing, yeah.
Right.
So my question was, are they required in order to keep their grandfathering to put them back in the same place after the winter? Or will they be allowed to put them in different places?
We had suggested in our meeting that they submit a plan showing where the speed bumps are now, so that would be memorialized. But we didn't leave the meeting with that as an agreement.
Because I'm just trying to brace myself for anything that might come before the board in the future.
I mean, we could certainly ask that a plan be sent to us so it can be memorialized. For that reason, you know.
The zoning
Right,
board.
well,
would-
Right, so Sue, I guess your question is, does it matter? If not, does it matter like, oh, it doesn't matter, but do they need to go back in the same place?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen like houses where they keep one wall up
Mhm.
to maintain their grandfathering. And if that wall fell down, they'd lose it. So is it under a similar idea where by changing the locations, they lose their grandfathering? And the only reason I'm asking this question is because how long our meeting went on where we looked at what the definition was of slope and for these speed bumps and whether it was defined. And I could just see having that amount of detail applied to a location of a speed bump. So I would like to know now how that falls. And if that has to go back to town council as just a really quick question, I'm fine with that too. I just want to be prepared in case it ever comes before the zoning board again.
I think more important than that would be to know the number of speed bumps. Because they might not put them right in the exact right position, and I don't know if you'd ever be able to decide where exactly they were.
That's why
although
we were
maybe
trying to
there's-
get a as-built so that we'd memorialize the location and quantity.
Yeah, I think quantity would be the big stickler. If they start out with 5 and they show up with 9 next spring, I think that would be, and I almost think you might get a map from Schultz.
Mm.
You can look at Google Maps and see exactly where they are.
That's a, oh, Jay, you always come up with an answer.
Are you looking at them right now, Jay?
Really?
No, but I did it one time.
Yeah.
And there's
Were they
no,
on there? Could you see them?
oh yeah, very easily. There's
Oh,
one that
grab
goes to
those
his house and
snapshots.
two more that go to their house.
So we should do a screen grab. Because the
Well,
Google
no, you
Maps
can,
changed, right?
I shouldn't tell you this because who knows what you're going to find on my farm, but the, all that imagery is all archived.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, you
Yep.
can go back for years and see it. Yep.
Yeah, you used to be able to, like, down in the bottom right-hand corner, it was the date was there. You used to be able to click on that.
Yeah, I think that's how you
and
do it.
Is that still how you do it?
I think it is. Yeah. I'm not sure. I did it once.
Yeah, I haven't
Actually,
done
yeah.
it in a while.
Yeah, I had to do it once just because I couldn't remember when I built a stone wall, so I went back through to find out when I built it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can see our manure pile growing.
I'm sure.
And you can forecast, actually, you can do a little mathematical forecast and figure out when it takes over the entire town, which is, I don't know, 30 years.
All right,
Little
well,
pile that
somehow
ain't growing.
I got off of got off of but I think we're all set with that document anyway, right? Yay, Tim, good job.
Thank you.
All I did was take notes from what you people agreed on, that's all.
So we're going to attempt to add another one, Tim, for require special permit issued by the ZBA for home-based contracting business.
Yeah, and throw it in the,
As a
we'll throw
separate-
it in the chart.
What
As a separate.
section does that go in?
Home occupation.
So the home occupation would be listed in the chart and it would say that there's a requirement for a special permit and site plan approval.
How about sending that to me and I'll put it in the minutes, because right now I put your document in the minutes.
Okay,
And I put approved everywhere.
Well, all you have to do that is just change the letters on that chart, right?
yeah. Or is it, home occupation isn't even on the chart, I don't think.
I don't think it is.
Oh, that's right, it isn't.
So it'll
Has
be
to go into
inserted
the-
into the chart with site plan approval and special permit.
And then it should probably say something when it comes up too, because it doesn't now. I think you guys, I mean, this was hard work and you spent long hours with us. But I think this is several things that got squared away, and I thank you, and I'm sure Susanna does too.
Well,
Yes.
let's not let it happen again. If we look at that chart, is there inconsistency between the fact that a business, so a service establishment in a commercial village zone and a commercial zone has to get special permit and site plan approval. A business in the commercial village and the commercial zone just has to get site plan approval. And a bank would just have to get site plan approval. And a retail store would just have to get site plan approval.
Mhm.
But a home-based business would need to get in the residential zone a special permit. Are we going to require a special permit for a home-based business in the commercial village zone and the commercial zone? Where we don't require a retail store to get a special permit. So if I have a home-based business in my house in the commercial village zone, do I need to get a special permit? Or do I just have to get a special permit if it's in the residential zone?
I would imagine just the residential zone, right?
Well, it would seem hard to believe that the fact that I'm going to have my tailoring outfit in my home in the commercial village zone would require a special permit, and next door a restaurant could get set up and they just have to get site plan approval.
Right.
It's more,
So if-
by the definition, it's more commercial, right, in nature, that zone.
It's by nature more commercial, and so you'd assume that the use would
Would be
be allowed
allowed.
by right.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand in a resi zone where it's more expected you would need to jump through a few more hoops because of its nature. But if it's a commercial zone and you happen to have a residence there, it's the tail
Right.
wagging the dog at that point.
Right. So then the next question is, do we want to allow a home-based business in a home by right and just require site plan approval? Because
Which
site
is-
plan approval gives the ZBA the opportunity to discuss hours of operation and the appearance and parking and stuff like that. It says you're allowed to be a tailor in your own home, but you've got to come in and talk to us about how you're going to operate that business. So that's the question. Are
And
we
the only thing that a special permit would offer is it
Or is
would
it site
be,
plan approval?
is there
or
would be a
special permit?
hearing.
No, there'd be a hearing for site plan approval, but the ZBA with a special permit could just deny it. Site plan approval, I don't think the ZBA feels comfortable about denying the site plan approval unless it's really blatantly out of the, they just won't conform to the requirements that the ZBA wants to impose.
The problem with not having a special permit is that you can put conditions on a special permit that you can't put on a site plan.
So if I come in and need to get a site plan from you, you don't feel comfortable about saying you can only have parking here in this part of your yard and.
Oh, sure, we can tell them where they can park, but we can't tell them how many employees they can have.
Well, there's a limit to that on the regs for the home occupation already. That's all in that. You can only have whatever it said, none or something like
Yourself
that.
plus one. But
Yeah.
do you want that in a commercial zone?
No, this is the residential agricultural zone I'm talking about.
Right, right. Why would you want site plan approval?
Because I would think you'd want to be able to say you're going to have a public hearing for site plan approval. And the abutters get to show up and say, oh, why, I think you ought to screen the parking from my view, from my side of the lot line.
Okay,
Can you, as part of site plan approval, can you
we can do
Designate-
screening, yeah,
hours of operation?
no,
That's only through the special permit.
right.
So I'd say let's leave special permit in and let it get battled at the hearings and town meeting. If it looks like there's a lot of pushback, then let somebody make a motion to modify it, you know? Good,
Right.
all right, I'm comfortable with that. I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. Good.
So does that mean that everyone that has a home occupation currently will have to come in and get,
No, it's only new
No.
ones.
so it's only new?
Not unless they alter, extend, or,
Reconstruct.
no,
No,
no.
because
Oh,
it's not
right. No, right.
non-conforming.
Or don't get along with the building inspector.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
or their neighbors.
Good, I like that.
I heard you talking about your objectives. I think you should list as your accomplishments for this year, straightening out some of those things. Making the changes to the, you spent a lot of time on it.
That can be in Jay's annual report that he writes at
We have to
There
get
you
it
go.
through the
in-
meeting.
in
Working on it.
January next year.
Yeah, we still have the vote.
Yeah.
We get it through town vote, then we can take a victory lap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we do about little stuff like punctuation and, you know,
In terms of
capitalization?
In terms of the zoning bylaw,
Yeah, can we just change that?
so make a note of those, and unless a comma changes the way a sentence reads,
Yeah.
we can just go ahead, typos and all that stuff. I can
Okay,
just tell
there's little
James that
stuff
he
like
can
that
make those.
it's not meaningful. It's just,
Yeah,
some things
Just
are
make-
capitalized and other ones are. It's just little stuff.
yeah, make a list and then we'll get James to
Right.
change those when they do them up the next time.
Well, if we're doing that on the 3 definitions on the first page, the middle one is not bolded.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah. I
I'm
know.
sorry.
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but if we're bringing up commas,
Yeah, that's the kind of thing.
And
I'm
the
talking about.
font size changed and my OCD.
Oh
was-
my God, you guys,
So who owns the, that document?
I do.
You do. Oh, okay.
Who owns it?
Can you send it over and I can just fix those things and send it back to you?
I sent it to you, didn't I?
Yeah, you sent it in Word.
You sent me the.
I'll send you the
We're talking
updated
about.
one from this.
You didn't send the whole thing. You only sent me the, right?
No, we got the whole thing.
yeah, it should be 4 pages.
I printed it out.
No, I'm talking about for the whole document.
The whole zoning
The
bylaw?
whole zoning
Yeah.
bylaw?
Oh,
I'll ask James to send it to you.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
like,
they've
as
got
an
it.
Example, I think in the table of contents, some stuff's capitalized, all caps, and some's not. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't make any difference.
It's just years and years of little,
It's online. And you're
No, but it's
better
not
off,
a Word file's not online, is it? Should be a PDF online.
I hope it's a PDF online.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
online, and you're better off using that, because if you have the 2018 one, it doesn't have anything about the marijuana stuff.
Yeah, no, you can't download a PDF and get it to be formatted correctly in Word. It loses all the formatting.
I'll see what I can do.
Deal.
Wait.
That'll be my legacy when you plant me in the town cemetery.
He fixed the font.
Here lies the author. It finally got to him.
Yeah.
Well, thank you two a lot, because
Yeah.
you made this a lot easier for us than it would have been by ourselves.
Sure.
A lot
There's a lot
longer,
of-
but
We'd just be guessing.
Yeah.
It's so much easier having you here and saying, no, this is what happens when you do that.
Yeah.
We say, oh, we don't want to do that.
Susanna worked pretty hard.
Yeah,
Thanks.
nice job.
Thank you.
All right, so do you want to entertain a motion to accept these and proceed to sending them for warrant articles?
So moved.
Do you want to do them
Second.
individually, or do you want to do all of them as
Nope.
one vote?
All of them at once.
All right, okay. So we have a motion, and do we have a second?
Second,
We have a
yep.
second to, with the minor tweaks that are going to be made by Mr. Wheeler,
As amended. Yep.
amended. We will send these forward to be considered for our warrant.
Yeah, I'll send them later this week.
Okay, perfect. All right, so any further discussion? Penetrating insight? Comments? Nothing?
Not at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, exactly. All right, hearing none, I will ask you to vote to push these forward. Jay Teach,
Aye.
Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
and Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you.
Yay.
Good.
Tim, are you going to that CPTC session tomorrow night?
Thursday night.
Thursday night, I'm sorry.
What time is it at? Because
The
he's
one
got a
on,
CPA meeting.
Is it Thursday or Wednesday? Thursday?
Let me get my Bible here. It is. It is Thursday.
Yeah, no. I have 3 meetings at the same time on Thursday.
Because it's on non-conforming uses.
Yeah, we shared that amongst ourselves and talked about it. It'd be
I
good if
signed up for
somebody
that.
could go, but
Yeah.
Carolyn and I are committed to a Community Preservation Act meeting.
I was planning to go to that, but I just got a potential conflict a minute ago. Check.
I'm just thinking it's pretty timely where you're updating the non-conforming. I mean,
Well, we had talked about the fact that it would have been great if it was before tonight's meeting, because if we saw little things that we needed to tweak, we could have done it and then.
well, they
Right.
usually send a handout. I'll be glad to share if none of you can go.
Well,
But if
what
it's
time is it? You know?
I believe it's at 6.
Oh, so I signed up and I can go. I just.
Oh, is it that early?
5:15.
Tim, you have like a whole hour with nothing to do. Hour and a half.
Yeah, Central Mass starts, the executive committee meeting starts at 7, then we start at 7:30, and then the capital planning committee wants me to report to them, and I said I'd do that after we were done, so.
Oh, they got me for 7 at Thursday. So I see them at 7 and then we have our meeting at 7:30.
30, yeah, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
go after the meeting, so. But yeah,
Jay,
Lynn, if you're gonna go to that, Lynn?
yeah, and if there's a handout, I'll forward it. If there's any questions you want me to ask, I'll be glad to ask them.
Well, you know all the questions.
I just don't know the answers.
We don't have to worry about non-conforming uses after tonight anyway.
Well, unless what we're doing is illegal or immoral according to the law.
Well, since most of it's just lifted out of the state text, it can't be too far off. No, thank you for going and let us know what you learned. Yeah,
Yeah, if they send a PowerPoint, I'll forward it.
great.
They oftentimes do. And it depends on who the lawyer is that's doing the instructing as to how good it'll be.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Some of them are excellent and some of them, you wonder how they pass the bar. Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Is
you.
there anything else, Tom, or do you want a motion?
There's just any timely items.
I have text for an article on the warrant that would create a housing trust. But I don't know who would, I mean, I can submit it to the selectmen and just say, would you put this on? But would you guys be comfortable about the planning board saying we want this language for the creation of a housing trust? So I'll make a motion that the planning board submit, and I'll send it around to you guys so you can see it, but submit an article to create a housing trust for the annual town meeting. I'll send that to you right now.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for language, creating a language for a housing trust to be forwarded as a warrant article. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask you to vote. Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
Jay Teach,
I,
Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Excellent. I have one timely item. I'll be very brief. So I got a phone call from a developer who was interested in the parcel on River Road West. And he was interested in doing a Rockwell type development and wanted to know whether the town would have appetite to change the zoning.
For the gravel pit?
The gravel pit.
Okay.
Yep. So I said that there's, that I didn't know if the town would be interested. I said, just suggested he come before the planning board and talk about it. I said that we have, you know, we've already exceed our 10%, so he can't come in as a, you know, a 40B, unless it was a friendly 40B and we had a big voice at the table, because that's what that would be require. I said, I don't know if the town has appetite to rezone that land. They're pretty much have their run of large developments similar to the Rockwell, especially at a site like that. And then I said, the bigger problem would be, you know, water and sewer, you know, that you would have to deal with. So I think he was just kicking the tires. He's done some, it was a company out of Connecticut, and they've done some development in Marlboro and around the area, and they were riding through, saw the Rockwell, saw this as a site that was for sale, realized that there is somebody that was interested in that for the greenhouses, but wanted to see if the town would have any appetite for going that far. So I said, my biggest suggestion would be to have them come to talk to us in front of the planning board. So they haven't called back, they haven't made an appointment, so I don't know.
Were they aware, no town water, no town sewer?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, they talked about a package plant, putting a package plant in. And it didn't seem to scare them off too much. They realized that it was an expense. But they said that they were really interested in, you know, going a 40B route. And I said, well, right now we don't have to. I don't know as if they were aware of that. And I said that if they do want to go that route, then it would have to be friendly 40B, and that we would have a big voice. The town would have a big voice in that. So we'll see where it goes.
That actually reminds me, Conservation got an email today from someone who's interested in talking about Wheeler Pond, is all it said. That their client is interested in that piece of property. And that they're interested in talking to Conservation, Planning, Highway Department, someone at the town about the town's MVP plan. So Tom, I gave them your email. And then directed them to the town website to talk to Margaret, talk to the highway department, phone numbers there. That was just this afternoon, so
Okay.
if someone gets in touch with you. I know at one point somebody was looking at doing some sort of condos. Basically filling Wheeler Pond back up so that it was a vista to put their condos on the edge of. But that was probably a couple of years ago now. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yep, and as of Sunday, I will be out of the country. I come back the day of our next meeting. So don't expect a lot from me, but I'll open the
You're not a
meeting.
host? You need to
Yeah,
find an alternate host?
no,
Oh.
I will be in touch with you if that needs to be the case, but
Okay.
so motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will ask you to vote to close this meeting. Jay Teach,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
aye.
Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries in the affirmative. Actually, unanimously.